Act 7.4.1 guide. Let's get into this. This is going to be a 100% all paths, all bosses, counters type video. You can see on screen 100% of it every time I do 100%ing of a particular Act 7.4, and I will be doing this for all of the content in story mode. This just kicks off the series with 7.4.1, and there is a spreadsheet which you can find in the link in the description. It will be added to, as well as the various different tabs in the bottom, but at the start point now, this will just focus on 7.4.1. It does do all paths, all bosses, counters, and that kind of thing. So let's delve into this. And as more counters come to light, of course, I'm going to update this. Let's kick things off with path number 1. On path number 1, there's going to be paradox debuffs. Do a debuff on the enemy, get a paradox charge. Get 3 paradox charges, you avoid the unstoppable, which begins everything at the start of the fight, which is quantum overrun. And basically, you just want to dex off from this in order to kind of like remove those paradoxes. And doing a parry puts a armor break on the enemy. On this particular route, we've got Hulkbuster, Rogue, we've got Sentinel, we've got Black Panther, Civil War, we've got Penny Parker, and we've got Emma Frost. My personal MVP for this has got to be Magneto, but there are other options for this, especially that play into the particular nodes. You know, Doctor Doom, Black Panther, Civil War is what I use for that one. Warlock or any champ, because you get armor break on against Emma Frost. But you name it. Ghost, Magneto, any buff potency champion, Hercules, Venom, you know, the list goes on. Why is this so much straightforward as well? Just to kind of point out is that, as a lot of you know, once you build paradoxes, you get bonuses, and as it says here, you gain 30% buff potency for each paradox on the attacker. So the more buffs you have, the more damage you're going to do. So that's why I'm talking about your Venoms, that's why I'm talking about your Hercules, Hyperion as well. There are multiple options to take down this path. For path number 2, it's all about Burnout. So in a nutshell, and as I've kind of like put this in the spreadsheet, enemies throw special attacks, they get a Burnout charge. And when you dex the special, when they have 10 charges, the enemy gets a degen. If you get hit into your block, enemies gain power. That's basically that in a nutshell with kinetic transference. You got Sorcerer Supreme, you got Jubilee, you got Doctor Doom, you've got the Champion, you've got Sasquatch, you've got Cat Marvel movie on this path. There are some really decent MVPs. For me personally, it was the utilization of Archangel, Apocalypse. You kind of go down the route to kind of create a Horseman synergy by the end of it. Magneto maybe for Doctor Doom for the Champion, Sasquatch. A good counter for Sasquatch could be Human Torch. Any Mystic Champion against Captain Marvel, and we know that Doctor Doom cheeses that. Other considerable options: Guillotine 2099. Human Torch, Yellow Jacket, because the enemy is going to be throwing special attacks, so they get power stung. That's the reason the Human Torch is actually going to be quite viable. More specials they do, the more damage they do to themselves. And Spider-Ham as well as a great option. And as I said, Doctor Doom can be great for this. Third path is Relentless Mutation. On this particular path, we've got basically a Cavalier node. If you're familiar with the Cavalier difficulty on a monthly basis and no healing factor, then you'll definitely know how this one works out. In a nutshell, mutants slay. Unlimited power means that it gains fury buffs, so it's great for Doom and power control and nullify champs. So whilst the enemy is building up fury buffs, you can either look to suppress them or you can look to interact with them. And with Night Thrasher, Void, as well as Elsa Bloodstone, Black Widow, Clairvoyant, and we've also got Kraven and Anti-Venom on the path, there are going to be some champions that are kind of be like, oh, right, you know, you could use this. It's up to you how you play this. You can either play into the node or play into the champions on the route. That's why Apocalypse and Archangel, between them, can just like clear a good chunk. There's no tech on that particular route of that path, so it's not too much of a problem. But there's an absolute cheese fest when it comes to using Ronan, because Ronan is able to do that perma-stun against anything that builds a Fury buff. Enemies build Fury buffs, you punish them with stun rotations. Morningstar is pretty fun on this. I've got a video that I'm going to do next week. I'm waiting for Kabam to release 7.4 on the Content Creator Beta so I can actually test out some other options on this. But yeah, Professor X, you know, depends on what you want to interact with, how you want to interact with it because of the healing factor, and as well some of the other champions on there. And yeah, like there's so many champion options for this. I don't think you can ever say like go mutant or go nullify. Those are your two kind of like options there. So if you've got nullify options, that route, or go a different route depending on how you want to slay. Path number 4 now, and this is returning back to Paradox's Paradox combo. 5 hits, then you get yourself a Paradox charge. Quantum Glimpse. This basically means that the enemy is going to get a glancing buff, which is, or glancing, and you need those 3 paradox charges in order to get rid of it. In a nutshell, you will also every 5 hits get yourself a immovable object, which is a steadfast buff, allowing you to block unblockable special attacks. This is great. This can work in pretty well. And as well, if you dodge attacks, you remove a paradox on you. So that's how that kind of works. Lots of fun, cheesable options. On this particular route, though, there are some champions you might want to consider to prepare for. With Havoc, first of all, a good kind of like counter to that is important. Blade will all be about regen, and you've got Nightcrawler evading base counters. Rhino, not so bad. Squirrel Girl and Omega Red, not so bad as well. Champion options wise, very, very important of who would be good options for this. I've put down Guillotine 29/9. She absolutely slays that path. I would say to have an evade counter. For me, I used Apocalypse because that was fun. And then it was a case of like using the kind of ramped up genetic coded Apocalypse on some other fights, or using Nick Fury or something else. If you're looking for a different route, though, then you have champions that have evade or counter evade based abilities. Anything that's an evade counter for Nightcrawler, and as well has something like you know, True Sense, True Strike, anything like that. Anything that kind of like has a good kind of like strong buff build to buffs, that potency they have, so it plays into that. Do more damage, but there's so many options you can use. Warlock could be a counter for Havoc, and also for Blade. Then you've got regen counter options. There's so many things to kind of, so many champions, so there's just some options there for you if you're interested. Path number 5 is all about superiority. That's making a return. Top dog, get class advantage, get superiority, and do a heavy attack, get taunt on the enemy. Taunt can be great because at the end of the day with this, the problem that you might experience is power flow. In a nutshell, you won't be able to build power through natural means. There are some really kind of fun counters to this, but as soon as the enemy throws a special attack at you and you block it, which you have to do, that's how you gain power, right? Power shield is what you get back as a nice kind of like, I don't know, thing. And that's great. But the problem is with that, you've got to gain power. You've got to gain power quickly. You do get Cosmic Ascendancy, which kind of increases the potency of damage. And if you've got 5 stars, they're not going to be super potent. As we all know, 6 stars gain the potency with it. On this particular route, we have Silver Surfer, we have Guardian, we have Nova, we have Howard the Duck, we have Null, and we have Ultron Prime. So whilst we've got all those champions on that particular route, there are some fun counters, there's some obvious counters, there's some really cheesy, fun, weird ones as well. So let's have a look. Okay, so taking all those things into consideration we just said, you've got options of how you want to play it. Okay, option 1 to play it is to go down the route of, okay, well, using heal recovery champions could be an option. Why am I saying about that? Well, a lot of the time you will find yourself kind of waiting to kind of grab more health and things like that. With Black Widow Clairvoyant, you can nullify certain buffs on some of the champions. You can throw off SP2s and recover back the health that you would lose, because you're essentially taking specials through the block. It's not great, it's not nice, and it's not tidy. But there are some other key like elements or options. Anything that is a cosmic but also gains a regeneration. Angela. King Groot, great option. Sadly was unavailable for me when it came to 8 because he was in AQ, but still I would have used that otherwise. Anything that has regen in its kit can allow you to top back up your health. Secondly, probably the other way of playing this is to have champions that have power gain buffs within them. Cosmic Ghost Rider has a power gain buff, so does Hyperion. Hyperion being one of the best options because you don't need to worry about taking damage through the block or taking special attack damage through the block to gain power, because you gain through the power gain buff. Throwing an SP3 and also doing those cosmic charges allows you to regen back. Great option. Also, for the astute among you on that particular path, will notice that there are multiple #metal champion options, like Guardian, like Nova, like Howard the Duck, and also Ultron. So there's 4 options there that you can use your #metal Magneto against. Great, fantastic. And there's several more. I would say as well to bring something in for Null if you want to bring Professor X because of inverted controls, and you will hit in beam by inverted controls. Not to say it's ridiculously bad. It didn't bother me because I just used Dr. Doom for this, as it wasn't too bad, and just kind of like playing into kind of like swiping the inverted way. So yeah, that's kind of like an option right there. On the final path, it is Shake It Off. Skill champions will purify debuffs, just dash backwards and boom, debuff is gone, which does mean that any skill champion is a viable option to take on this route, but there are some other options you may want to consider depending on certain variables and other things. It does mean as well, when you purify, the enemy gets a Fury passive, intercept, and you nullify the Fury passives, and you make the enemy degen, so that's great. So that's between there and as well, like down here, which has got Rust and Ruin, which is meaning you're going to have an armor break on you. So it's like there's kind of there's the proper way to play this, where you just like build up Fury passives on the enemy, and then you kind of intercept and they get degen damage, and that's kind of the narrative of play through it. And it's up to you how you want to like approach it on the route. You've got Invisible Woman, you've got Man Thing, you've got Immortal Abomination, you've got Scarlet Witch Sigil, you've got Mr. Fantastic, and you've got Vision Arcus. I would say preparing for that Vision Arcus is important, and some of the various options that I used against this are on screen right now. As I said, check out the spreadsheet, the link is in the description down below, and it will be added to as things go. Nick Fury was on my team. I would say to bring in a Poison Immune champion for Immortal Abomination and Man Thing, just having something available, it just has a double whammy of taking them down. It's not super needed, because if you have a skilled champion, you can deal with it. It's just how you want to dictate the fight, and also that intercept and swiping back and dashing back and stuff like that. Crossbones, I've used a few times for stuff. It's great against this. Nick Fury again, and Doctor Doom, or any kind of like mystic-based champion to deal with that pesky Vision Arcus is something to kind of like consider as well to make this easier. Karnak has, maybe you want to go down the route of shrugging off stuff more easily with Karnak, because he can shrug off those things. Any kind of skill-based champion, even like Black Panther, has some kind of intercept and shrug off type thing. It's up to you who you use, but skill champions may be the way to go. Now let's finish off on the bosses, and Darkhawk, he is just all about doing special attacks. The only damage you're really going to do is from special attacks. It's up to you how you play this. Whether or not you play around just doing great damage, SP2 is going to have miss, so you need something like a true sense based champion in order to deal with that miss, or something that has it within his kit to counter it. On block, you get Fury buff. If you swipe back with the Dex, you'll turn it into a Prowess buff. That's that in a nutshell. Armor break is not possible. This rules out champions like Medusa, but it doesn't mean to say that like it's doom and gloom and it's the end, because Magneto, of course, being a best option, #metal kind of interaction, build up on those prowess, do some damage, SP3 or SP2. I think I had a bit of a better time with SP2, but I can't. I'll throw some footage over the top. Human Torch, high damage, deals a lot of kind of like elements of stuff. Corvus, high damage, you know. Hercules, True Sense, and has buffs, so that's great with how the node works. Hyperion does lots of special attacks, power gain, rotations, you know, Red Goblin, the list goes on. Boss number 2 is indeed Guillotine 2099. This is, in my opinion, the most easiest boss, although Darkhawk is kind of a following second. Thunderstruck, shock vulnerability, high voltage. If you have a tech champion, if you have power control, then you're going to be able to do a shock passive. There's so many champions to take this down. The list goes on and it's completely unbelievable and fun. I put up a video on this channel, so you've probably seen that. So what are the counters? What are the good ones? Warlock, SP1. Penny Parker does power control off of well-timed blocks. Doctor Doom, another shock option. Nebula with Proxima Midnight, SP1 rotation for power control. Hulkbuster heavy attack, SP2. You know, again, list goes on. Black Widow Deadly Origin melts with mediums and a smashing SP2. Thor Ragnarok, courtesy of Corey, who can let me know about that. There's tons that kind of like do this very easy. Such a fun fight. And finishing off with Ultron. With Ultron, there's loads of champions, again, that you could like take against this. Oh, and FYI, the reason that I said about with the Guillotine fight doing a parry in heavy, it just means that you're able to relax into the fight and not worry quite so much on the miss element, because that's, you know, one bit of a problem. We've got on a one-arm bandit. Every eight seconds, the defender cycles through a dormant fury, armor up, power gain buff, and whenever the defender is knocked down, they activate a buff of the dormant type for 30 seconds. So yeah, that's kind of like something to watch out about. It's up to you how you suppress that, because return policy means that if you are nullifying, you'll really need a power control champion to deal with this. But I would say to watch out for the fact of armor break, so you can't bring in those armor break champions to counter Ultron because he's immune to them. And then the best defense, which means that evades up, auto blocks going to be there or up. So there's things to really, really watch out for as to how you play it, as well as indefinite protection, reducing all damage for 90%, and you know, they have to be knocked down to then do more damage. So unfortunately, you have to knock down the champion, which is going to play into the buffs they build. Your counters to this one is going to be down to you of how you want to play that. For me personally, this was back to using Magneto. It's a long fight, it's a bit boring, but if it's stupid or considered to be stupid and it works, it ain't stupid, and deals with some elements of the problems you may see in some sort of capacity with power gain. But as I said, options. If there's going to be stuff of evade and there's going to be stuff that you want to deal with, True Strike with Odin, any type of True Strike champion is good. Angela will deal with auto block if the champion's auto blocky, and that's things like doing parry and heavy attack to deal with certain situations. Falcon deals with evade and auto block. Mole Man with true accuracy. Doctor Doom, and that's power control and nullifying, which could be a good option. Sasquatch with nullify, and somebody from the community recommended Cap Infinity Wall, but I want to say that may have been something to do with potential tech champion on the team and being able to do, I don't know, kind of like get the petrify debuff up. As I said, that has been it. That's the guide right there. I hope it helped out. Link in the description. It will be added to. I'm not gonna, like, it's 24 hours after, less than 24 hours after this event. I will be taking into consideration other people's tips. I've put this together with my own, and we'll be adapting these, you know, every 3 months or so, and going back to old ones or making old ones about it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Thanks for supporting. Make sure as well to check out some other content on screen right now. Hope it helps. Let me know in the comments, and if you've got any suggestions, put it in the comments as well, and I'll add it as well to the list. And see you in the next one, whenever that'll be. Cheers everybody. Bye bye.